What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the DGD Podcast. As always, Robert Reynolds here. Juan Daniels, Kobe Pierce are not here at the moment. Um, a lot of big news over the weekend, obviously revolving around the NFL draft. It seems like Georgia has two new locations, one in Philadelphia, one in Pittsburgh. We'll talk more about that. Dogs making history. That's the easy way to put it. We'll talk a little bit more about that. And man, oh man, wake up on a Monday realizing that Juan Daniels has to go get a Stetson Bennett jersey. Mm, mm, mm. We'll talk more about that when he comes on. But with that being said, welcome into the DGD podcast. First things first, the show is brought to you by our first a sponsor of the day, Apotheos Roastery, folks. Located in Kennesaw, Georgia, 2871 Cherokee Street Northwest, to be specific. Excellent quality coffee, K cups as well. Listen, I drink it every morning. It starts my day off the right way. And when you use dgdpodcast.com/apotheos and you use our link to shop, 20% of every single bag of coffee that you buy using our link, 20% of that goes to the Classic City Collective because Apotheos is the Classic City Collective's official partner when it comes to coffee and cold brew. So make sure you check them out. Jason always makes the best coffee around. Shout outs to Jason there. Uh, yeah, listen, you won't be disappointed whatsoever. Just gonna leave it there. But draft time, folks. Obviously, we welcome in JOGG, Michael B. We get people popping in. With that being said, though, 13 draft eligible dogs in the draft, 10 of which get drafted within the first 7 rounds, obviously. Two get undrafted free agent contracts, and one goes to a camp invite. So we'll break that down a little bit, and we'll go in order by which these they were drafted. So obviously, starting things off the right way, the Philadelphia Bulldogs apparently get Jalen Carter at 9, and what a steal! What a steal! Um, for him to be there at 9, and the Eagles of all teams to get him, holy cow! I'm just gonna leave it there. As Adonis in the chat as well, the devil. All right, listen, I know his. Yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit too. But no, when you look at Jalen Carter, it was just interesting to see. Uh, you know, a lot of obviously the Georgia Bulldog goes to Philadelphia. There was a lot of speculation that he's sitting there at 8. The Falcons could have took him. They chose not to though, and the Eagles from that point just pounced, moved a spot up, and got their guy with Jalen Carter. So now now you're looking at Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter, right, on that defensive line, fortifying that D line for the Eagles. It's just wild to think about that. It's good for him. I think the infrastructure there, the veteran leadership will definitely ease or make that transition, better for him and what he needs when it comes to, transitioning into the NFL and succeeding. So you sit there, you watch him go at 9, which I think was absolute value there, value pick. Then it didn't take long for the Steelers to pounce, and the Steelers go pick up Broderick Jones, and that's another pick right there. You're getting the Steelers getting some protection for Kenny Pickett. A lot of athleticism, guys. We know this. He's hyper athletic, right? So, the Steelers getting. I felt like one of the best tackles there on the board at the time for sure. But I think fitting them right there, that's going to help Najee Harris in Pittsburgh as well. I think it's going to help them in all facets of the game. So we're sitting there night one, uh, and then at pick 30, Nolan Smith comes off the board to none other than the Philadelphia Bulldogs. It's just wild to see. Uh, you know, there was a lot of speculation of people coming back up to draft Will Levis, right? Um, they said no to that. You, you look at you look at the value uh, at Nolan Smith at 30. I think you cannot overlook that. And the Eagles did not. Nolan Smith at 30, I think they were just as shocked as everyone else. He's still here and he's not getting taken, so we're going to take him. So now that's, you keep going through, and I want to talk more about, the situations here later, but then you go second round and it goes quiet on night 2 up until the Steelers' third round pick when they picked Darnell Washington in the third round. Absolute steal, in my opinion. At that time, I feel like that was a legitimate Nakobe situation from last year. We go there, and then we look at day 3. You got Keely Ringo, right? Keely Ringo going to the Eagles as well going to the Eagles. So again, you see the common trend here. Stetson Bennett, baby. Stetson Bennett going to the Rams. Chris Smith to the Raiders. Warren McClendon. Warren McClendon's going to the Rams as well. Robert Bill, before him going to the 49ers. Literally within 4 picks, I think 4 or 5 picks, I think you had Chris Smith, then you had Robert Bill, and then back-to-back you had Warren McClendon. So I thought that was pretty interesting to see there. Then you start looking out, and to the end of it, you start to see Kenny McIntosh. Kenny McIntosh going in the 7th round, wrapping up your 10 draft picks. And then almost immediately after, you see Jack Podlesny get an undrafted free agent contract with the Vikings, and Kiersey Jackson signs an undrafted free agent contract with the Tennessee Titans. Warren Erickson, gets a camp invite to Denver. So all 13 guys are officially entered into some sort of, contract or process in the next level. So it's always fun to see these guys go in and do that, do those things. And as the chat is reading, DGD Podcast says, I'd like to go on record in saying that I called it on this show, Carter to Eagles and 10 dogs drafted. Yeah, elite. Wanson Bennett, by the way. We've got a bone to pick with him. Try telling him. Now, listen, at the same time, on that record, I do want to say that I did project him to get drafted, but he was actually earlier than what I expected. So that was, let's just say that was interesting as well. But nonetheless, you get 128th overall, which leads me to some fun facts about a Florida account on Twitter that wanted to flex, if you will, comparing where Anthony Richardson was drafted with 4th overall to Stetson Bennett. But the thing about it is, I don't think that's a flex that you really think it is. It really isn't, because 2 rings. What did you get with Anthony Richardson? Sub 500 season last year. Way to go, Turbo. That's all I can put it there. But yeah, you see those posts, and it's just one of those things where I don't really understand what the logic behind it is, but Florida fans just were not happy about that. They really don't. GOWG continuing to bash Juan here. Hopefully when he comes back on, we will have an answer for this, because it'll be the first thing I expect to be coming up. I can't say that it wouldn't be. Excuse me. But I want to talk about the current situation with what the Eagles – and the Eagles took this in stride. GM Howie Roseman, and the Eagles organization as a whole, have went even as far as to, basically use their official Twitter account. Excuse me. Their official Twitter account is now basically littered with Bulldogs. So you have on their main Twitter account, you see Philly Georgia Bull Eagles or Georgia Delphia Eagle Dogs. Both have rings to them, if you know what I mean. But it just shows you, right, the influx of Georgia talent into that organization. And I don't think that should go unnoticed whatsoever. Also, Adonis wants to bring in that this is another thing. During, I want to say day 3, right, over the weekend on Saturday, DeAndre Swift gets traded to the Eagles as well. So now you look at the situation you've just got so much talent from that Georgia team. And now you add DeAndre Swift to the Eagles. It's literally now you're starting to understand why it's becoming Georgia North, Athens North. And I'm here for it. And I think you look at a lot of Georgia fans, a lot of them, taking their talents up to Philadelphia, and rightfully so. I mean, you've got the four cornerstone pieces of that defense that won our first national title, and you've got DeAndre Swift now. I'm okay with that. I'm absolutely okay with that. But you sit there, you bring in, you look at what they're got, and now you pair those guys on defense, and you pair them with Hassan Reddick, and you pair them with Fletcher Cox that he decided to come back. It becomes downright dangerous, and you're adding just extensive depth to the situation. JOWG, while he can humble himself, no, I'm not going to make him admit the Utah greatness because there's no such thing. That is an oxymoron. Correct it, please. But nonetheless, right, you look at Nolan Smith and what he brings, right? The speed that they're getting, the size that they're getting. I mean, and when you listen, there was a clip on the internet on the Eagles account when they were talking to Nolan Smith, the call, if you will. And it's just funny that Howie Roseman is a Florida alum. So you hear this, and he's like, how hard it is as a Florida Gator for me to take all these fucking dogs, basically. Paraphrasing. He didn't say that. they censored that. But, but then when you hear Nolan Smith's response, it just reiterates the point. He's like, you wanted to win. You wanted to win, though. And which, Howie Roseman obviously obliged and responding back to that with, yes, I do want to win. I do want to win. So it's just fun to see. I mean, you look at the situation, and now you're starting to see Georgia Bulldogs go in groups. And I think that's interesting to note because while you have a situation where not everyone are together, not all of them are together, you look at serious clumps of teammates together that instills some of that culture, right? You look at, like I said, with the Eagles, we know you've got Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Nakobe Dean, Keely Ringo, DeAndre Swift. And then you look at the Steelers. Now you got George Pickens. You got Broderick Jones, Darnell Washington. The Rams have Matt Stafford now, but they've also got Stetson Bennett, Warren McClendon, and Darian Kendrick. You start to see these Packers with Quay Walker and Devontae Wyatt. Right? Georgia gets drafted in groups now, it seems like. And we'll see how it moves moving forward, what that looks like. But it's always fun to see your dogs play together at the next level once you saw them for 3 to 4 years as well in Georgia. It's nice to see. But I do want to talk about some stats here that I saw that really drives home the overall perspective from a Georgia program. And Kirby Smart and Georgia staff are writing history in their own way. Jonathan Will, Dr. J. Will, shout out my boy Jonathan. Kirby Smart has produced a total of 15 first-round picks during the last 6 years at Georgia. That's more than the total number of draft picks that any of Tennessee, Ole Miss, USC, Texas, or Florida State have produced over their last 4 years. To me, that's interesting. But worth a try. Yeah, absolutely. We know how it is. Persistence. I thought that was interesting. I did. It was very fun to see that because you look at that 2021 team and you really start to look and just see how interesting that team was, because now that team is the whole defense is an NFL defense. Keep that in mind. Anyone that played a snap in 2021 is now a NFL player basically. So now you're looking at that situation where you have an entire defense on an NFL roster to some degree. And it's just wild to think about that. But I want to get the brigade's thoughts here. I'm going to talk about my favorite fits for this segment here. But I want you to, in the comments, if you're listening or if you're watching this, let me know which player has the best situation where they got drafted. Let me know that. Um, Specifically, I think you look at Jalen Carter as being the best fit for him. Um, the reason why I say that is because everyone wants to focus on the off-field issues and things like that. And while that is fair, I do think you have to be careful, right, in moving forward. So to do that, to put him into the situation where you've got your teammates there, right? You've got the infrastructure with the veteran leadership. It's not just a youth, organization. You have, some established veteran leadership. He's with his teammates that can do the things like that needs to be done. In my opinion, I think that is the best fit for him. Um, as Mike B says, Stet and Darnell have good fits. Yes, absolutely. I think I don't see a situation in which any player went to a bad spot, in my opinion. Stetson getting to go behind Matt Stafford, right? Learn the offense. I think we've seen he was capable of running an NFL offense under Todd Monken. That being said, you sit there, develop, and learn under Matt Stafford, one of the best Georgia greats. And I genuinely think that you've got him in a position for success. I was expecting him to go somewhere where they had an established quarterback, right? I don't think you want him to, off the rip, trying to establish a starting role. But at the same time, though, getting him behind Matt Stafford, getting him, getting that Georgia connection going, I feel like it's going to create the chemistry that you need for the backup room, and he's going to be able to learn and soak everything in. And I think he's just another tip in the cap to his story, right? You prove a lot of people wrong. With that being said, you sit there, now you've got a 4th-round pick when a lot of people think, or were thinking, excuse me, that he wasn't going to amount to anything in the NFL, not even get there. And now you've got a 4th-round pick, top 130, right, 128 overall. That matters. Now you go to the next level and you sit there and you prove yourself some more, right? Keep writing your story. And I think ultimately he will do that. At the same time, Darnell seems to be in the comments here as well. Yeah, and I want to hear someone elaborate more and see if we're on the same page here. But I think Darnell going there, you've got Broderick as well. But I think when you look at Pickett's willing to, utilize him. And I think Mike Tomlin can utilize Darnell Washington in the receiving game. But it's going to help. I think he can play right away for sure, honestly. When you do that and you pair him with George Pickens, right? That to me and Deontay Johnson, that should open up situations for him to get utilized in the passing game. And when you want to run the ball with Najee Harris, you can turn him into a 6th offensive lineman. And I think that's what's going to happen. Tomlin, in my opinion, is more than understanding of what Georgia players do and how they're utilized. And I think you kind of see some of the similarities there. With Pickens' case, I think you see a little bit more exposure in regards to targeting and targets and stuff like that. But at the same time, I think you're going to see Darnell go to a position where he gets utilized, and and I think that's another good fit behind it. Excuse me. I think you look at Warren McClendon. I know this kind of sounds like it's jumping around, but Warren McClendon, I think, protecting Matt Stafford and things like that, like just the position. Obviously being a right tackle, you're not looked at in the same way as a left tackle like you would see a Broderick or whatever. But I think he has a shot there, to just be able to go in there and play. That's just my thought there. You look at Kenny McIntosh, man, it's just interesting. Hold on. Black Adonis says Podlesny might take Joseph's job. I'm not really sure the Minnesota kicker, but I'm assuming that's what you're talking about. Listen, I think you could see Podlesny come in there, and listen, the fact that he's in a dome is going to help him. It's mostly in a dome, but at the same time, Podlesny, I think is more than capable of making an NFL roster. Speaking of, get Rodrigo Blankenship on the NFL roster. Come on, guys. Come on, somebody's got to make that happen. But yeah, I think Adonis has a good point, and Podlesny I think could make a case for making the roster legitimately and being a kicker for the Vikings. Looking back at Kenny McIntosh, man, Kenny McIntosh's story throughout the draft was pretty interesting. Listen, I thought McIntosh, I was surprised when he got drafted because you look at it, I felt like he was going to get drafted, but it got to a point where I was just fading in regards to hope. My hope was fading for him to get drafted because you get to be so far back and you see a lot of these running backs taken. And you're like, damn, and knowing the situation, it's like, who's going to take him? So when Seattle drafted him, it's like, wait a minute, they already had Charbonnet or whatever his name from UCLA earlier in the draft. So to take Kenny McIntosh in the 7th round, I thought was a very good pickup for Seattle. They do have Kenneth Walker and, like I said, Charbonnet, but at the same time, like, what can Kenny – like, I feel like Kenny's versatility and how he comes and production that he can bring is going to keep him on the roster. You could utilize all 3 running backs because they bring different things to the table. And with that being said, you look at Kenny's pass protection, I thought was excellent. He showed in the spring in the Senior Bowl. Obviously, we've seen him in Athens, but, he might not have the 40 time I think dinged him a lot here. But we've seen that he has a capability to be a tenacious, willing blocker on top of physical in the run game. We saw Ventrell Miller just get over and over and over and just ran around. So when you take a glance at it, I think even if there's 3 running backs there, I think Seattle can make things happen. And his pass protection could help him go a long way with, definitely trying to keep Geno Smith upright is going to be huge. So you bring his skill set, there you go. Oh, excuse me. Sorry, I had to sneeze. So, but yeah, I think you look at. I think all the guys got a good spot. I'm hoping that that Erickson gets a good shot. I know the odds are going to be stacked against him, but I do hope that he has a good shot to make something. I really wish him the best. Want to see him do good things. While we're talking a little bit here, drop your comments in the chat. Let me know some more, thoughts on best fits. But I do think it was interesting when you look at, the scope of the college football world and how you look at the draft. You take a lot of Power 5 schools. I think only one HBCU school player got picked. But to me, overall, it looked like a lot of teams drafted a lot of good players, and every team I felt like got better. There were some questions about Detroit selections in the first round, but as the draft solidified some things, it, I think turned out well. Let's see. Apparently, we've got Eagle fans that are deciding that they're Georgia fans. So again, this kind of alludes back to the situation where, like you said, the Eagles took this in stride, and so did the Dogs, right? It's funny, but at the same time, I feel like there is some truth behind what's being explained here, and you're starting to see a lot of people become fans of that. So I saw another. Let's see, what was it? I don't know how truthful this is, but I did see something as well. Most draft picks by college football teams in the last 5 years, it shows Georgia with 48, with 12, first-round picks. And if that's true, that is very interesting. Very, very interesting, might I add. Let's see. Checking out. I'm seeing if there's any other news recently. But I want to get y'all's thoughts as well. If you're not familiar with it, Broderick Jones already has his number picked out for when he plays in Pittsburgh, and he decided to choose 77 to honor Devin Willett. And I think that's probably one of the coolest gestures you'll see in quite some time there. And I just thought that was one of the coolest things to see. It was immediate too, so for me to look into that, I thought that was awesome to see. Very, very cool to see. Also, while we wait for Juan Daniels, we need to see if anyone we need to find a Stetson jersey for him, right? I think we need to do that. Find a Stetson jersey for him, and go from there. Another fun fact: the only university to have a tight end drafted each of the last 5 NFL drafts is Georgia. When you look at it, you've got obviously Darnell in 23. Going backwards, you have John Fitzpatrick last year, Trey McKitty the year before that, Charlie Warner, and then Isaac Nauta. So 5 years you've had a consecutive draft with a Georgia tight end. It's just crazy stuff to see, which is, again, it's just one of those cool things you love to see. You just love to see it. Excuse me. But no, I think we should become basically an open and a safe space for Eagles fans. If they want to become Georgia fans, I think we need to make that happen. I'm just going to leave that there. I think that'll be key for new growth, right? Bringing in some Eagles fans. They're wild up in Philly. Just going to leave that there. But no, so I do want to bring up, while we have this, a second sponsor. Excuse me. Alumni Hall, folks. If you did not know, Alumni Hall, we're currently running a sale April 30th through May 6th. Go to our website, dgdpodcast.com/alumni hall. Shop there. And when you go to checkout, use code DGDGRAD. No spaces, DGDGRAD. DGDGRAD. Use that as a discount code, and you'll get 20% off. I'd love to see if you do use that, and if you have the ability to, let us know just how much you save, because I'd love to let the folks know at Alumni Hall, and just let them know that, hey, this works, and we love doing business like that. So you let them know, let us know if you use it, how much you saved. I think that'll be fun to see. But anyways, let's talk some new things. So what are y'all's thoughts on Rusty Mansell joining On3? I thought that was very interesting. Obviously, Rusty's been on the show before. I feel like that's going to change the landscape on recruiting services. I definitely think that's going to be some news. It's definitely newsworthy for Georgia fans. If I'm not mistaken, first day there, he started today, already dropping a crystal ball or prediction for Raiola. Oh, JOGG. Even better, a Rams Stetson jersey. Pat, if you're here, confirm that that's available. It should be. If it is, we might have to make something work. He gets to keep it, or whatever the case may be. Just to let him know. I think we need to do that. Someone confirm that while he gets in here. Oh, that's going to be so fun. But no. So you look at it's just crazy to look at 25 players drafted. It is available. Pat confirms that it is available. Guys, when he comes on, I think we need to talk to him. and let him know what kind of jersey we're going to get him. I think that's got to be the case. It just has to be, right? It just has to be. We'll let him rock it. Do we have predictions on size? Any guesses? Do we get him a bigger size just because? I think so. I think we can see that. I can see that. So we'll keep an eye out for it. So also, obviously, with the draft, right? With the drafts come your contracts. This will always be my reasoning why NFL is greater than NIL. The reason why I say that is because we'll take a projected list of spend, extra media. Okay. We're going to take a look at projected contracts for each of our draftees. And then you will take and contemplate what you can make on NIL deals. Okay, keep this in mind. Jalen Carter, number 9 overall. You're looking at make around $21.8 million over the 4-year deal. 12.8 of that is guaranteed. Find that in NIL. But nonetheless, Broderick Jones, 14, 16.6 mil, 9.1 mil guaranteed. And we've got a bird flying around here. As Juan Daniels shows up. Juan Daniels, welcome to the show.
What's going on, man? How you doing?
I'm doing well. The question is, how are you doing? How are you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. The best thing is I want to let Joel know that the Utah sanctions have been lifted, and now it's official that the Rams are absolute trash.
So breaking news. I'm just saying here, I just want to let you know how good it feels to be the winner of this bet, sir. just going to say that right there.
Congratulations.
I tried telling you, man. And listen, we talked about this offline. I don't think I even saw him going in 4th. All right, when you look at the run on quarterbacks, I think that's kind of what did it in. But I did feel like he would get drafted. So I think what we're going to have to do, Juan, for your punishment, sir, we're going to have to get you. I'm glad you just brought that up. I'm glad you said that Utah's lifted and now the Rams are trash, because we might just have to get you a Stetson Bennett Rams jersey, sir.
Yeah, that would probably be even worse.
Oh,
half Georgia, half Rams.
I don't think we're going to do that. But we might have to just find. Yeah, I don't know. Do we want to go Fanatics or do we want to go DHgate to make it even better?
Probably Fanatics.
Let's see what happens here.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're gonna have to get you that. We're gonna have to only the best jersey for Juan Daniels. Okay. Yeah. Only the best.
Yeah. I put in the chat, or not in the chat, but in our group little thing. I should probably just get a trash bag and put it on. I think that'd probably be better.
I think people are going to start questioning you. The hate still won. I mean, listen, I understand everybody is entitled to their own opinions, but people, I mean, he just went 4th round. I mean, listen, we talk about trash though, right? But there's some Gator garbage that got drafted 4th overall. Just gonna say
that was shocking, man. It
wasn't shocking. It's just there's a lot of money invested there for someone that has to get developed so much.
Yeah, it's not only that, man. I mean that's a guy that's not really proven. He played 13 games, and he's really not a guy that fits an Indianapolis type offense, an Indianapolis type feel. It's just really kind of mind-boggling. I would even say befuddling is the best way.
I think, excuse me. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm not going to sit here and talk about Florida player like that, but I mean, you're betting on his. I mean, listen, we know he's fast, we know he's big, but now you've got to get him into a system that he can read full progressions and stuff like that. There's going to be a lot of investment from a training perspective that's got to get him up to speed, because what we saw against Georgia, right? is not what you want to see if you're the Colts. You're banking on the development potential there. I mean, I brought this up one. Everybody that played in 2021 on the defense, for the most part, it's an NFL team now. So you see him playing NFL defense, basically, right? And it's not good whatsoever. Now, at the same time, there's a lot more. I guess you could say there's a lot better talent around him there in Indianapolis. But how much of a difference does it make when you counterbalance the NFL defense again?
Yeah, you're right. You're right. It's almost kind of a wash, and you're back at square one. You know, are you going to be able to make that transition? Are you going to be able to get the ball to your players? It's everybody's good. So he's going to be basically playing the 2021 defense every week, and that's even, you know, for your worst team is going to be that 2021 defense. So, you know, we'll see. Obviously, they saw something that we haven't seen. I know the offensive coordinator the coach is one of the guys that developed Jalen Hurts, and Jalen Hurts is actually doing very well. So, you know, we'll just have to see.
So I wanted to bring it up. We talked about Stetson getting drafted, but Tanner McKee got drafted from Stanford. Stanford starting quarterback.
Yeah.
Does that speak volumes? I mean, I'm not telling you to bash the kid or anything. I'm not going to do this. Is that telling of how this draft went in regards to quarterbacks?
Yeah, it's strange because if you flip-flopped both McKee and Richardson, it would make more sense. So Richardson would be a better fit at Philadelphia because that's the same style that you would have with the Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia offense. And then for Indianapolis, you know, it's almost a better fit for Tanner McKee. He's a 6'6" guy, not super duper mobile. And that's basically what you've had over the years as far as quarterbacks. I mean, you look at Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning was great, but he was not very mobile. Then you had, Andrew Luck was a little bit more mobile, but again, these are guys that are just more your pocket passers. So it's really strange to see the reverse. I do think that, you know, Tanner McKee will have an opportunity to learn. I don't see him starting. You know, I don't see him playing a whole lot, but he'll have an opportunity to learn, and I think he'll be a great backup somewhere.
Yeah, you know, you sit there thinking about it, right? I mean, like I mentioned earlier that I felt like all the teams really had a decent draft. I didn't see one team have a just terrible draft. There were some terrible moments, I thought, but not overall, right? And I want to bring it back around too, as well. You know, I want to get your thoughts on the overall draft from a Georgia perspective, right? All 10 got drafted as we predicted. All 13 are now associated, right? You have 2 undrafted free agents, and then Warren Erickson rounding out with a camp invite to Denver. So I want to get your thoughts on the draft over the weekend.
I'll tell you what, based off of where our guys fell, especially in the first round, every team that picked up a Georgia player got a steal. They got an absolute steal. And, that a lot of our guys went lower than expected. But again, and the draft winner goes to the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, it's
Jesus Christ.
They pretty much have, almost half of that 2021 defense. They're going to be outstanding. That's a true case of the rich getting richer. Philadelphia's defense was already pretty dang good. That got them to a Super Bowl. But now you add in these additional players. I think that Keely Ringo is going to have a great fit there. Let me just tell you right now, anytime that your defensive front puts a lot of pressure on an offense, it makes your job as a cornerback or safety that much easier. And that's exactly what you've got up front, are just some absolute monsters.
Because think about this. Like you've got Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Nolan Smith, Keely Ringo, and now you add on the offense DeAndre Swift.
God.
It's becoming it's literally becoming Athens North, University of Georgia North campus.
Yeah.
It's insane. But then you look over, you look at the NFL teams. They're drafting Georgia Bulldogs in groups now. I mean, if you really look at it, right, outside of the Raiders and the Niners, the Rams picked two, right? The Rams picked two, the Steelers picked two, and four with the Eagles. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, if you know anything, if you've done any research on the Eagles guy, I can't even remember his last name. He has done a great job year after year of keeping the salary cap in check, going out there, researching and getting great players. And, one of the things that you look at is when Andy Reid left, everybody thought, wow, the Philadelphia Eagles are going to fall off. I mean, they're not going to be as good as they were before. And look at them. Here they are back in the back in the Super Bowl. And then now you've added additional players to an already great team. That says a lot about that, the guy at Philadelphia.
Yeah, Howie Roseman, man. I mean, it was funny to listen to a Florida alum just drafting two Georgia players in the first round on top of what they picked up last year, which it's just so fun. Yeah, Michael B says, didn't the Raiders and 49ers draft? Yes. I was just mentioning in this draft you saw groups. But if you look at it, though, the Raiders have Zeus and then the 49ers have Charlie Warner. So, again, when you look at the draft, like you look at the NFL rosters, you're starting to see groups. Devontae Stokes and Quay Walker in Green Bay. Roquan Smith, I think, might be the Lone Ranger. Ben Cleveland and Roquan. At Baltimore, just to name some examples, man. It's so much fun to see all these guys, going with former Georgia Bulldogs. It just shows you, right? It just shows you how well, how Georgia's representing from college to the NFL level. It's just insane.
Again, this was something that we talked about. Is once you see these players perform at the combine, whoever their strength and conditioning coach is absolutely outstanding. I mean, he is absolutely outstanding. So to prepare these guys, not only just for the draft, but to be successful in the NFL. And now you can really see why Georgia is as good as advertised and why they will continue to be good as advertised. There's not a team that I've heard of as of yet that is going to be a favorite to even challenge the Bulldogs for a national championship, let alone beat them. So what they're doing at Georgia is something special. And imagine taking a 3, 4, 5-star guy and then putting him through that program and then, setting them up for success. Why would you not want to grab a guy out of this draft from the Georgia team?
Now, I'll tell you this. I want to ask you a question about this because Georgia's always been kind of criticizing quarterback development, right? With Stetson getting drafted in the 4th, what kind of impact does that have moving forward when you talk to recruits trying to come to the University of Georgia from a quarterback perspective?
I wouldn't say very much, simply because if you really look at it, Stetson was the benefactor of a great team overall. So he didn't have to do much. And it's funny because when I would talk about him getting drafted, a lot of these elite quarterbacks that you see, a coach would never ever say to them, play within the offense or play within the system. So you would have never heard that from a Bryce Young or CJ Stroud or anybody else for that matter. Now, from a development standpoint, I don't think that they do a very good job of it because they develop people just for their system, versus preparing them for the NFL. We'll have an opportunity to see how well Stetson does, especially in the preseason, if he is prepared and then what type of a learning curve. And if there's not much, and if he does do well, that's something that these quarterbacks are going to be like, wow. So now I can go to Georgia. Now I can develop. And that'll be something that Stetson can come back and talk to recruits, and say, hey, listen, I was prepared. I was developed well enough to where I could be successful in the NFL. But as far as quarterbacks are concerned, unless you're a guy that's playing with Lincoln Riley, a Nick Saban or something like that, then that's probably where they're going to choose to go. Versus, hey, I want to go and win a national championship. I'm going to UGA.
Yeah, I look at it too this way. I think you look at it right, like you have the ability now to say Georgia can get you drafted, but I do think the microscope is going to be on him in the preseason because I feel like that'll be when you really see him, right? Like because you have Matt Stafford in LA, right? So if he looks like he's comfortable in reading through progressions and things like that, and is transferring over, I think at that point you can really say that Kirby's system offensively, or the Georgia system, is effective, right? Like with Todd Monken here, we knew that it was effective because we've seen it happen in the NFL. So the fact that he was able to execute it tells me that I feel like he can do things in the NFL, right? Kind of led me to feel why he got drafted. But I want to see how he handles that progression with someone else at the next level. You see,
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh, it definitely does. And so, but you can also tell the shift, right? So if you look at Kirby and the way that he runs his program, it's the same way that you would see at Alabama when they had a AJ McCarron, who is now in the XFL, or if they had a Greg McElroy, who is now, he's an announcer, but these guys were not successful at the next level. So the only reason that Alabama became successful and had successful quarterbacks, it was to start with Lane Kiffin and then Sarkisian, who's another guy that these people are going towards. And then once they opened up, I mean, for us to say that Alabama would have four quarterbacks to go into the NFL back to back and potentially have all four of them starting before Kiffin got there, it would have been unheard of. And so I'm hoping that Georgia will have that same type of awakening, maybe with a Bobo, where Bobo opens these guys up and develops them to where they're more functional and they're not just system guys. Because unfortunately, unless that quarterback goes directly to a San Francisco 49ers or somebody that runs a West Coast, then, those types of quarterbacks are just kind of obsolete.
I just saw this, and I think this is going to be absolutely nuts to digest. In the last 3 NFL drafts, Georgia has had a first-round pick at every position on defense.
Wow. Wow.
We're not talking obviously full 11. We're talking about cornerback, safety, each linebacker, and then from
the defensive. Yeah, man, that's
nuts.
Nuts. If I'm a defensive guy, that's where I want to be. I want to be at Georgia.
I think that stat kind of solidifies that notion, right? I mean, because let's break it down, right? You've got Lewis Seen at the safety position. You've got Stokes to Green Bay was the was your cornerback. Then you've got linebackers. You got Quay Walker, right?
Yep.
Then you've got Jordan Davis, Trayvon, Jalen, Nolan Smith. Sick. That's
Good
nuts.
Grief. Yeah.
That is ridiculous.
And guess what? I mean, they're going to be – I could see next year or the year after being Malachi Starks last year. I think he's going to be a 3-year guy. I see him leaving. But hopefully, if I'm KJ Bolden, who is a big-time guy that we're trying to get from Buford, I'm looking and saying, not only will I have an opportunity to come in there and start my freshman year, but I also have an opportunity to get drafted in the first round.
What makes it more interesting is understanding the NFL value for safeties. You don't typically see them going in the first like that.
Nope.
So the fact that Vikings traded up to get Lewis Seen speaks more volumes than people realize. Because they got him at the last pick. But the fact that they wanted to get him for 5 years, get that 5th-year option it speaks volumes.
Yeah.
But I mean, when you really look at it though, too, it's going to be interesting to see how we can do if we can try to get this changed on the offensive side of the ball. The problem is, from a running back's perspective, I don't see that happening because of the true value. Right? I feel like Bijan and Gibbs this draft class was kind of outliers to the rule in theory, because some of the better ones went round two. Like James Cook went round two, and I thought James Cook was the best receiving back last year by far. So yeah. I don't know if you see the same dynamic on offense on the offensive side of the ball.
Well, I tell you what, the great thing that these teams are going to have is, again, these offensive players are going to have less wear and tear, so they're going to be more durable. And just because they don't go and grab them in the first, second, third round doesn't mean that they're not high on their list. They're just kind of hoping that they end up falling in their laps. And that was just something that, for McIntosh, just kind of fell in somebody's lap. I think he's going to be absolutely fantastic. Great running back, great out of the backfield. And now, what you're seeing in the NFL, there's not that durable back that they used to have in the past, except for maybe a Derrick Henry, and then Derrick Henry's on the trading block. So they're kind of going away from that and going back to that, that two back set, going back to that true scat back. And you got that guy that's going to, come out of the backfield. And you look at some of these teams, I mean, they got two or three backs. So I think, again, anybody that picked up anybody from Georgia, that's an absolute steal.
Do you see? So I know I asked this for the brigade. Do you see any player that got put into a bad situation, like a bad cult? Like, yeah, like I'm glad no one got drafted to, like, say, Cleveland or something like that. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Like, sorry, Nick Chubb. I'm sorry, but
yeah,
I feel like all the guys that got drafted went to a decent spot. Am I wrong?
No, they went to a great spot, and I tell you what, once they go to these places, these teams are going to be shocked with the physicality with the work ethic, because that is exactly what Kirby demands. He demands that, and it's the same thing too that you would have with all of these Alabama players that were coming, in there, is they were immediate starters just because of the work ethic, just because of what they brought, the value that they brought to these teams. And so even if somebody did go to a bad place, I could still see them bringing value, again, unless it's Cleveland or the Rams, then they got to. What'd you say?
So you got Warren McClendon going to the Rams. He's just gonna suck it up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just the Rams are just trash. So that's.
and now hashtag has changed, by the way.
Yes.
One, when this is going to make this even more sweeter when we get you a Stetson Rams jersey. Jesus Christ. Looking ahead to next year, I know we're getting way too far ahead of this, but next year you could see even more. Dude, like the names that could potentially be gone next year, dude, that list, like we thought 15 was a lot. There's a chance you could see 15 to 20 guys leaving. Potentially. Yeah. I say potentially.
Yeah.
But that list is going to be ridiculous.
But guess what? This is the true, that true adage where, you could say Georgia, they don't rebuild, they reload. And losing 15 guys. Just imagine if half of those guys stayed last year, of those 15 that got drafted.
I know someone that doesn't want to think about that.
It would have been absolutely criminal, right? If they would have stayed so they 15 left, then you go and win another national championship. You got 13 from that team that are gone, like all in all. And then you're coming back, and I think that you're going to be stronger this year than you have. But it's a true next man up. And, from an NFL standpoint, if I'm looking at Georgia, I'm looking like, okay, wait a minute. They lost 15 people, and they still go and win a national championship. They lose 13 people. They're going to be the favorite to win another national championship. I am basically going to go and then just start cherry picking everybody I can from the University of Georgia.
I mean, you would think you better stop the Eagles from doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you look. I mean, just think about it, right? Like we can already pencil in Brock Bowers, right? I think that's going to be the headline guy there. Small Munden, I think, could be first rounder. Pop Johnson, depending on need, could be an early rounder. Carson Beck, if he has a good season like we're expecting him, if he's a starter, that could be a first round pick there.
Yeah.
You know, I think the problem is though with Carson though, you look at the class. I don't know how to feel about this class yet. I think time will tell. This upcoming quarterback class, there was a lot of quarterbacks drafted. I get it. I get that not everyone was like first round, but there was a lot of backups that I think people could look at and see if they get develop right and become starters. I think Brock Purdy changed the game with quarterbacks.
Yeah, I agree. There are going to be a lot of guys. They're already headlining, of course. You know, Caleb Williams being the number one guy. I'm pretty sure Quinn Ewers, he's going to be coming out. You know, you're going to have Bo Picks. You know, he doesn't have a choice. They're basically kicking him out. I mean, he's an 11th year senior. So
older than Stetson Bennett, basically.
Yeah. You got, Penix that's out there at Washington, so you're going to have a lot of guys, but I tell you what, this is going to be Beck's opportunity to really just kind of shine. I think Bobo is more, because I think with Monken, it was more 50-50, more, a little bit more run because he could, but even though Bobo is keeping the same system, he's kind of a high octane mindset guy. So I do see the ball getting into the air a little bit more. And it's going to be, a little bit more lopsided from a pass standpoint, because everybody is going to be loading up on the run. So they're thinking that they're going to say to themselves, and this is what I would do. I said, you know what, Beck, you're going to have to prove to me that you're going to be able to throw the ball to win the game, because we're going to stack the box.
And I'm curious how that works, because I mean, you start to feel that way.
Yeah. So I see that being a situation where they're going to do it, and that's going to be be careful what you ask for. And I think that Beck is going to absolutely just light them up.
Yeah. Now I want to take a brief second to kind of recall something. I thought this was absolutely awesome to see. Not Georgia related, but Deuce Vaughn got drafted to the Cowboys, and his dad is a staff member there, and his dad actually got to give him the call. I thought that was the coolest thing you could do.
That was so awesome, and just for that to happen, that's a dream come true, especially from a father-son standpoint. Deuce Vaughn is, he's always being compared to I can't even think of the guy that was there before, played for San Diego. Oh, I can't even think.
LT?
No, because of his stature. He also played at Kansas State. I can't think of his name. Darren Sproles. Oh, yeah. So he's always compared to Darren Sproles, and Darren Sproles actually went to the NFL and made a pretty good name for himself. So, for him to sit there and battle and want to be there to put in all the work, and then to have your dad give you that call. Wow.
Yeah, that was one of the moments, man. Like, I know a lot of people maybe take away from outside of what Georgia did. Dude, I love those moments where you get to see like the reactions and the emotion that comes with it. Because like, did you hear about Kenny McIntosh when he got the call? They like, just go to the Seahawks Twitter account and just scroll back. It's heart wrenching, dude. It's yeah.
Oh, that's so awesome.
Yeah, it's just the emotion behind it, man. Anyways, I want to give a shout out and congratulations to all the drafted players that came from the University of Georgia, and also Rusty Manziel for joining On 3. That's a big move for him.
Yes, sir.
I already talked about it. What do you have to say about that?
I just think that's awesome. I mean, the fact that he went and made that announcement, I just think that's great. I mean, we have to get him back on the show again, just to have him just kind of talk about that. Rusty Manziel has just been a huge staple in a lot of these kids' lives. And so for this to happen for him, I mean, it's just awesome.
Yeah.
And again, like you said, congratulations to all of the Bulldogs that got drafted. I mean, these are dreams come true. And even if you did go undrafted free agency, a lot of people, there's millions and billions of people that can never say they had the opportunity to either be on a camp roster or whatever. The percentage is so small. So all the work, all the effort, all the whatever they put into it, but first giving their heart and soul to the University of Georgia, then to go on and do something else. I mean, it's just absolutely amazing.
Absolutely. We're going to wrap it up with Pat's comment here. I loved this. He talked about Carter walking to the stage, fighting back tears, but at the same time, we're gonna do this. Nolan telling his new Gator GM he drafted Dogs because he wanted to win was great too. And there was a hold on. We're going to end it with this. There was a comment that he made at the end of that video, just like Georgia. We're going to end it on that one. With that being said, have a great day. We will catch y'all later. Go Dogs.
Go Dogs.